The soft hum of the air conditioner was the only sound in Sarah's dim apartment. Outside, the city pulsed with neon lights and strangers' laughter, but inside, it was just her and the silence that always followed after she sent money home. She stared at the screen one more time before hitting send. $2,000, just like every month for the past 3 years. Her daughter, Emily, deserved the best. Sarah imagined Emily's smile when she'd receive the money, maybe a new book for college or a small treat after classes. She could almost hear her laughter, the same sweet sound that once filled their tiny kitchen back home before Sarah left for this overseas job. Just a few more years, she whispered to herself, wiping away the tear that slipped down her cheek. Then we'll be together again. Working in a foreign country had never been easy. The endless overtime, the aching back, the isolation, but every sacrifice made sense because of Emily. Sarah had promised herself that her daughter would never know the struggles she endured growing up. Her parents, Richard and Martha, had agreed to take care of Emily while Sarah built a future for them both. They promised her that Emily was doing well, that she was happy, focused, and grateful. Every month, Sarah would call, and her mother would answer with a gentle voice. "Don't worry about a thing, sweetheart. Emily's doing fine. She studies hard and misses you." Those words always soothed her, even though the calls with Emily herself had grown shorter. Sarah assumed it was the teenage phase, the distance, the distraction of friends and classes. Still, it stung every time her daughter said, "Sorry, Mom, I've got to go," before hanging up too soon. Sometimes Sarah scrolled through Emily's social media late at night, just to see a glimpse of her life. Her daughter's posts were rare, but when they appeared, a photo at a cafe, a group of friends laughing, Sarah smiled through her tears. She never noticed the same clothes repeated in those photos, or the faint tiredness in Emily's eyes. After 3 years abroad, Sarah finally saved enough to visit home. She wanted to see Emily's face, to hold her again, to see the life she had helped build from miles away. She planned it in secret. She would arrive unannounced, carrying gifts and a heart full of love. On the plane home, Sarah's heart raced with excitement. She imagined the moment she would knock on the familiar door, how Emily would run into her arms. She rehearsed what she would say. "Surprise, baby, Mom's home." But what Sarah didn't know, what she could never have guessed, was that behind that door waited a truth that would shatter every sacrifice she'd made. And when her daughter would look at her and ask, "What money, Mom?" her whole world would fall apart. The taxi stopped in front of the small house that once felt like the center of Sarah's world. The paint had faded a little, and the garden looked less cared for, but her heart still fluttered with the same warmth it always held for home. She stepped out, clutching her suitcase, her palms slightly trembling with anticipation. 3 long years, and finally, she was here. Sarah stood before the wooden door, her breath catching as she pressed the doorbell. The sound echoed faintly inside. Footsteps approached, then the door creaked open. Emily stood there, taller, older, beautiful, yet somehow unfamiliar. "Mom?" Emily blinked, her voice uncertain, as if she were seeing a ghost. Sarah's eyes filled instantly. "Yes, sweetheart, it's me." She opened her arms, waiting for the hug she'd dreamed of every night, but Emily hesitated before stepping forward. The embrace was brief, awkward, almost cautious. "You didn't tell anyone you were coming?" Emily asked softly, glancing toward the hallway. "I wanted to surprise you," Sarah said with a watery smile. "I missed you so much." Before Emily could respond, Sarah's parents appeared. Richard froze at the sight of her. Martha's hand instinctively went to her chest. "Sarah." Her mother breathed, pale as paper. "What are you doing here?" Repeated her F is THERFORCED, experienced stiff smile. "You should have told us you were coming, HONEY, Dev PREP ripple prisp RED old something." Sarah PATTERN laughed S with new ones nervously. "Oh, don't worry about that. I just wanted to see my family, my daughter, my home." They ushered her inside, but the warmth she expected wasn't there. The house felt colder, emptier somehow. Emily sat quietly on the sofa, her hands folded in her lap. Sarah tried to lighten the mood. "I hope the money's been enough to take care of things. I've been sending 2,000 every month. Was it reaching on time?" The room fell silent. Her mother's smile faltered. Her father's gaze shifted to the window. Then Emily frowned. "What money?" she asked, her voice steady but confused. "Sarah froze the money I send every month for you, for your expenses and studies." Emily blinked, bewildered. "Mom, I've never received anything from you. Grandpa and Grandma just said you couldn't afford to send much right now." The air thickened. Sarah turned toward her parents. Her mother's lips trembled, color draining from her face. Her father cleared his throat but said nothing. "Is this some kind of joke?" Sarah's voice cracked. "I've been sending $2,000 every single month for 3 years." No one answered. The silence screamed louder than words ever could. Emily's eyes darted between them, realization dawning slowly. "Wait, you mean?" Her grandparents didn't look at her. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest as the room spun. Her parents' faces, once symbols of safety, now looked foreign, cold, guilty, and in that moment she understood. The betrayal had already been living inside her home. Sarah could barely stand. Her knees wobbled as she stared at her parents, waiting for one of them to speak, to deny it, to explain, to say something. But they just sat there, pale and silent, the weight of guilt pressing down on them. "Mom, Dad, please tell me this isn't true," Sarah whispered. "Tell me Emily's mistaken." Her father, Richard, rubbed his temples, avoiding her gaze. "You don't understand, Sarah," he murmured. "I don't understand." Sarah's voice broke. "I worked 16-hour shifts. I skipped meals. I lived in a tiny apartment to save that money. It was for Emily, every cent of it." Martha's lips quivered. "We didn't do it to hurt you," she said, her voice shaking. "You were far away, and we needed it. Your father's medical bills, the house repairs." "Then you should have told me," Sarah snapped, tears streaming down her face. "You lied. You said Emily was doing fine, that she had everything she needed. She was struggling while you—" Her voice caught on the edge of heartbreak, "while you were living off her future." Emily's hands trembled as she stood, staring at her grandparents in disbelief. "You told me Mom had abandoned us," she whispered, her voice cracking. "You said she stopped caring after she moved away." Sarah turned sharply toward her daughter. "They what?" Emily nodded, tears spilling freely now. "You never called me directly. Grandma said your new life kept you too busy. When I asked about the money, they told me you couldn't afford to help anymore." Sarah's breath hitched. The room spun with memories, all those late night video calls where her parents said Emily was busy studying, the brief conversations that always felt distant. Now she knew why. They had built walls between her and her daughter, brick by brick, lie by lie. "I trusted you," Sarah whispered, looking at her parents. "You raised me to be honest, to work hard, and this is what you've done." Richard slammed his hand on the table, anger masking shame. "We took care of her when you didn't. You think sending money makes you a mother. You weren't here, Sarah. We were." Sarah flinched, but her pain quickly turned to resolve. "You were her guardians, not her owners." Martha sobbed quietly, covering her face. "We just wanted to feel safe in our old age." Emily looked at them, voice trembling but firm. "You could have asked. You didn't have to steal from us." The clock on the wall ticked loudly, the seconds dragging through the silence. Finally Sarah stood tall, wiping her tears. "I'm taking my daughter with me," she said coldly. "We'll find our own way." Her parents didn't stop her. They just sat there, defeated, as the truth echoed between them. Every lie laid bare, every bond broken. For the first time in years, Sarah walked away. This time, not out of duty, but out of betrayal. The night air was cool as Sarah led Emily out of the house, their footsteps echoing down the quiet street. Neither spoke for a long time. The silence between them wasn't empty anymore. It was full of things unsaid, of wounds slowly beginning to heal. They checked into a small hotel nearby. Emily sat on the edge of the bed, her eyes red and swollen. "I can't believe they lied to me all this time," she whispered. Sarah brushed a strand of hair from her daughter's face. "They lied to both of us," she said softly, "but we're together now. That's what matters." Over the next few weeks, they tried to rebuild what years of distance had broken. Sarah helped Emily transfer to a nearby college. They rented a small apartment, nothing fancy, but it felt like home because it was theirs. Mornings began with shared breakfasts, evenings with long talks about everything they had missed. Slowly, laughter returned to their lives. But the hurt didn't vanish overnight. There were nights when Emily would stare at old photos, tears glistening in her eyes. "I used to think you didn't love me enough to come back," she admitted one evening. "Now I just feel stupid for believing them." Sarah hugged her tightly. "Don't blame yourself, sweetheart. They used our love against us, but we won't let that define us." And she meant it. Instead of vengeance fueled by hate, Sarah chose something quieter, something that would speak louder than anger ever could. She met with a lawyer and recovered what she could of the stolen money. But rather than keeping it, she created a scholarship fund in Emily's name, the Bright Future Fund, to help single mothers and their children afford education. "This," Sarah said as she showed Emily the official papers, "is how we turn pain into purpose." When news of the fund spread through their hometown, whispers followed. People began to talk. They learned how Richard and Martha had betrayed their own daughter, and how Sarah had turned her suffering into something good. Her parents' once proud reputation faded quietly. They withdrew from community events, their phone calls unanswered. Sarah didn't gloat, didn't confront them again. Her silence was enough, calm, graceful, unshakable. One afternoon months later, a letter arrived from her mother. It was short, written in trembling handwriting. "We were wrong. We thought we deserved what you earned, but we only lost what truly mattered. We're sorry, Sarah." Sarah read it slowly, then folded it neatly and placed it in a drawer. Forgiveness would come in its own time. That evening, as the sun set through their window, Emily rested her head on her mother's shoulder.